Chris Goglin's GEMP Game Review Series. I am your host for the evening, as usual. Yes, we got all fancy this year. People, this episode now, we've added a countdown clock. Let's get Batman out of there. So good evening, and thank you for noticing the clock. Yes, I know at least one or two people had commented on, when they log in and they see the 5 minute thing, they don't know whether it's 5 minutes from then or it's already 2 or 3 minutes in. So it was like, well, maybe we can find a way to do a cool little countdown. I've seen that on other streams all the time. It's still just a generic, cheap little Google version, but it gets the job done. So welcome to episode 41. Glad to have all you guys with us here tonight. A couple things going on that we'll talk about this evening. Of course, we've got our game reviews to go through as usual, and see what's going on in the GEMP lobby. Of course, we'd like to start off with the OCS, our online qualifier championship series, and the March qualifiers are underway. Today is March 4th, the fourth day of the month, and there are already 2 people who have played all 12 games. Now, they went 3-9, which might tell you something about rushing through all your games to get them all done for the month. And I don't know what they're going to do for the other 28 days that are left. But you got 4 full weeks, basically, left in the month to get your games in. And, these guys both played their 12 already. Hayes is already through 7, 6-1, sitting on top of the leaderboard. So congratulations to him on another good start. I think he ended up going 10-2 last month. So certainly looking to qualify himself, and it's great to see Hayes back playing at a high level for after being away from the game for a number of years. A number of other players here: 5-1, Gavino and Jared Napolitano. You got Steve Baroni at 4-0 this month. A bunch of guys here at 3-0. 2 of them, the 2 qualified last month, Chris Kelly and a Rebel Spy. But Xanth getting off to a 3-0 start. Matt Wadden, 3-0. And you got a couple other guys still, plenty of people still with their games left to play to get started for the month. So definitely excited to see how this month shapes out. A couple minor little rule tweaks that they did announce in terms of like scheduling games and things like that. We won't get too much into that because, well, it's a hot button issue, and I like to keep the drama to a minimum on these shows sometimes. But one of the other things that we did announce is our Twitch subscription incentive. Since you're all watching us on Twitch right now, hopefully that means you've clicked at least the follow button, and hopefully you have an Amazon Prime account, and you can click the subscribe button, and that's how you get to subscribe to us for free. If you already have Amazon Prime, it's a free benefit. You do it every month. It doesn't cost you anything, and now you actually get something for it. Subscribe for 3 months, and you get a Krennic Death Star Commandant, full foil V-slip, and a red poker chip. That's what I meant to grab. Oh. For those of you who haven't seen the Star Wars poker chips yet, they were given out at some of the major events, and at the league kits, get some of them as well. So we've got these cool little poker chips. We'll see if we can't zoom in and catch it on the right angle, that actually have the Star Wars Players Committee on one side, and then they all have, depending on what color it is, they have the matching icon that's in the top left corner of cards. Like this is the red one, and I believe that is the effect, like the little green swirls that make up the effect icon in the top left corner. So that's the red one. This is the green one. Again, they look the same on the front with the Star Wars Players Committee logo. The back, this one has the device icon because devices are green cards. So 3 months get you Krennic and a red chip. 6 months get you the new Ezra Bridger and a green chip. And all 12 months, you get a foil map objective plus an exclusive orange chip, which I don't have yet because they're still being printed, that will have something to do with Twitch specifically. I don't know what the exact logo will be and whatnot. If you've already been subscribing to us the last couple of months, you do get some bonus swag as well. The easiest way to do, if you go in your Twitch account, Twitch subscriptions, it pops up, it looks like this. You can see your subscriptions, and then you can see, oh look, I subscribe to the Star Wars CCG PC. I've been subscribing for the last 5 months. Oh, and this is when my current subscription expires, so I know what day I have to renew it on. all right there, right, very easy to do, to find that information for you. Just get this set up. If you don't have a Twitch Prime account, you can still hit that subscribe button. It's just going to cost you $4.99 a month to do it. So for $60 for the whole year, not only will you get the content here, the benefit of being a subscriber to the show is that you don't have advertisements to worry about as well, and there may be some other cool features in terms of like different emotes and stuff you can do in the chat. And then you would also get the 3 poker chips and the 3 foil slips as well. So it'll cost you $60 for the whole year if you don't have an Amazon Prime account. Hey, look at that. We just got a subscriber. Thank you, Nutritious. Glad to see that worked. So yeah, so if you don't have the Amazon Prime to get the free one, you can still do it through Twitch for $5 a month. I think Amazon Prime costs about $100 a year, $120 a year. So if you're willing to spend a little extra more, you might as well just go for the Amazon Prime account if you want to get the foils, because you're already going to spend $60 on Twitch just to subscribe. You might as well spend the other $60 and actually get a whole year of Amazon Prime, which gets you like free shipping on stuff, and obviously then it also gets you access to the video library, the on-demand streaming service like Hulu and Netflix. Where they've got some cool shows, including, from what I understand, the Jack Ryan show was really good, starring John Krasinski from The Office, and the new show that just released this week that I actually keep seeing the trailer for, called Widow with Kate Beckinsale, which looks pretty good too. And who doesn't like Kate Beckinsale? So, but that's all that information is right here in the Twitch marketing thing. When you hit your streak sub totals here, you go ahead and just send me a screenshot of what you got, and then I'll put you on the list, and when we have the prizes and stuff, we'll get them sent out. You also, if you subscribe within the next 4 weeks, so if you subscribe within the month of March, you also get a free chopper foil slip as well. So there's the 4th prize right there. And then when you hit these milestones, you'll also get this. Is retroactive back to January of 2019. So if you've been doing it for a couple months already, you might already have a head start. Some of you might be, about ready to renew your subscription for the 3rd month and this year and get your Krennic. So I better make sure we get those printed up. But all that information is right here. Announcements, Twitch, subscription, incentive. And then it basically says if you, when you're done with it, PM me with like a screenshot, which some of you have already done. Thank you for sending me those. The other thing going on right now is the 3rd annual GEMPC. Some of you who may have been watching my live stream last night may have caught some of this as well. The bracket has been posted and the prediction contest is up. Go to general discussion, follow this link here for challenge 3rd GEMPC bracket challenge. That will bring you to here where you can see the bracket and then you can predict the winners. Batmouse, who's running the tournament, did mention that he's given out some cool prizes himself, and I may throw in some stuff as well, depending on what he's got up his sleeve for the winners. But you can enter your predictions. You get to pick who you think is going to advance through the tournament, just like March Madness. Because, well, hey, what do you know? It's March, and then sit back and watch the results and see if you're right. We've already had 23 people fill in their predictions so far. Oh no, it broke. Reload. Alright, so apparently the challenge website just crashed. Let's try this again. Nope. Alright, so challenge is offline. Alright, well, if you happen to catch my show last night or you want to pop over to my Twitch channel, you can scroll down on the PC page. There's a link to it. You can follow me as well. But you should be able to watch my previous videos from earlier in the week, and you can see me filling out my bracket. And I do give a little bit of insight into some of the players and why I predicted them. But that's the other big thing going on this month. There is a league set up for that as well. And I think you have to complete your brackets in the next day or two, because people are already starting to play their games, and once some of the results get known, I'm sure he'll have to close out the contest. Otherwise, people will already have some free wins and free information. So, but that's what the two big things going on. Of course, uh, can't not talk about the MPC coming up, the Match Play Championship, April 26th. That's 7 weeks away from now in New Brunswick, New Jersey. The registration deadline for this tournament, though, is the end of March, so you've got that same 4-week period. If you're thinking about coming, you've got 4 weeks left to register for the tournament and sign up for it to register for the tournament. All that, you do that through the PC store. Registration info and registered players. There's the links. You can sign up for the weekend pass. That's $50, and that gets you access to the main event, the Friday night team tournament, the main event on Saturday, the main bracket, and the consolation Swiss tournament on Sunday. And if you get eliminated from the main bracket early enough, you also get to be put into the consolation bracket as well. So all that stuff is on Saturday. If you just want to come and just play the main bracket only on Saturday, there's a separate, cheaper option. It's $10 less, and you can just play on Saturday in the main bracket. Even if you're, on the fence, it's your first major, you're not sure what to expect, come play. It's fun. Star Wars is fun. You guaranteed at least 4 games in the bracket tournament, because if you get eliminated in the main bracket, you move into the consolation bracket with the other players who also lost in the first round. So, if you're worried about, like, well, I'm just going to get crushed because, I've never really played before and I'm going to get paired up against one of these world championship guys and they're going to kick my butt. That is a likely outcome for the first game. Who knows, though? Maybe you'll be that one, that Cinderella story who pulls off the upset that people keep talking about 5-10 years later. Like, remember that time that, world championship guy lost to random person nobody had ever heard of? Well, turned out random person nobody ever heard of is you. And they'll all know your name after that. And in case that Cinderella story doesn't quite work out for you, you still get to play in the consolation bracket, so you get another match. That's 2 more games. Against another player who also lost, who will be closer to your seeding, and should prevent a bit more balanced matchup. So even if you were a 16 seed and you lost to a number 1, the next round you're playing the loser of the 8-9 game. So that seems it's a bit more close together, and certainly improves your odds of winning and advancing to the next round. And then you can make a run in the consolation bracket. Many a player has shown up, their first year, not done so well in the main bracket, moved into the consolation bracket, made a run, got to the Final Four, or won the consolation bracket, and that was kind of their stepping stone. That was where they, started to get their confidence going that they could compete in these major events and move on from there, and certainly get you a much higher seed in the following years. Just for example, I think a couple of years ago, I think Trevor Partridge was a guy from Pittsburgh, hadn't really played in any major events, was kind of seeded low. I think he was like a 14 or 15 seed because nobody knew who Trevor Partridge was. And he lost in the first round, and then he made it all the way to the finals, I think, of the consolation bracket. May have even won. I'm not 100% sure because all these tournaments start to run together in your head. But I could go check the brackets, to be honest. But he made a run, and certainly I think he moved up to like a 9 or 10 seed the following year. So he had a much more balanced matchup in navigating his way through to the rest of the main event the following year. So this could be your big tournament. This could be your start. This could be your stepping stone, your first step into a larger world. And all that registration information is right there as well. But let's hop back over to GEMP. We're going to catch the last turn of this game here because this one looks like it's just about over. This OCS qualifier between Stubley, who's playing Watch Your Step, and Munchenka, who's playing Map. Stubley and Munchenka, they are both California-based players. I believe Munchenka is up in the San Francisco area. I think he's the one who's starting to run their league up there and also run some cool events at some of their local conventions and stuff. I believe last year he ran a tournament at the convention and had like 22 different players show up and play some games during it. A lot of them were newer players. They were playing with like pre-constructed decks or things that he had built that they just borrowed, and played a 4-game tournament at it was the Kubla Khan, I think it was, in Northern California. So good to see him building a community there, And hopefully some of those guys will travel up to Seattle again. I know a couple of them went this year from California, and hopefully we'll see a few more of them start traveling up to the Endor Grand Prix in years to come. But what we're looking at here, Monchenka, dark side playing map. He's got 5 cards left, down, none in hand. He does have a couple of force drains going for him, but he's kind of running out of spots here in space. He's stuck between a rock and a hard place between the Millennium Falcon and the Pulsar Skate, both with double smugglers. And he's just got Kylo Ren with a lightsaber and a blaster. Otherwise, he's going to have to start paying a drain here in a minute, and that's pretty much going to wrap it up for him. He did manage to get Stubbly down to about 8 cards left down. But he does not have the Watch Your Step shield out, though. And that could be problematic, because that means Stubbly's going to get to play any cards he needs out of his lost pile, like he just did now this turn. He played a Control Tunnel Vision out of his lost pile. And that would be perhaps a newer player mistake, not knowing exactly how the flip side of Watch Your Step works. There's the shield, a useless gesture, V, and I highly recommend that you play it if you're playing against Watch Your Step, because basically it works as an additional grabber, and each time they play a card out of their lost pile, it gets stacked there, and they cumulatively start having to spend more force to do it. So the first one costs you 1, second one costs you 2 force, third card costs you 3 force, and so on. So usually most people can't afford to play more than 3 to 4 interrupts, and it makes them be a lot more choosy about what they want to play. Watch Your Step being a fairly popular light side deck, should know that key tip if you're playing against it and how to deal with that. Star Wars CCG is born. That's pretty clever, Sean Dixon. I did watch that movie this weekend. Wasn't impressed by it, though. Definitely see why it didn't win all those Oscars that people were making a big deal about, because it wasn't anything to write home about. Save your $5, wait for it to come on Netflix. Yep, Kubla Khan. Okay. And he is running it again this May. Thank you for letting me know that. Is that Galaxy's Edge thing that he posted on the main page in the event section? So, did this freeze up? I guess Monchenko's just trying to figure out what exactly it is he can possibly do. Looks like he's been sitting here for a couple minutes now. Oh, he's advanced through his phases at least. I think he's just going to start drawing at this point and possibly end this game. It's going to be a close one, but I mean, he's looking at getting drained for 1 and 1. He could possibly cancel it with a strategic reserves, but he activated all his force, so he can't draw Battle Destiny. And this thing's going to get blown up in space by good old Captain Han and Talon Card and the Millennium Falcon. That's 3 Battle Destiny, actually. So Stubbly also didn't leave enough available to himself to draw all 3 Destiny. I don't see anything here that would limit light side. Maybe one of the cards in his hand is an all wings combo, and or he can play an all wings combo from his lost pile. So he wasn't expecting to need 3 cards as it is. So he does get drains of 1 and 1. It looks like that's Tatooine Celebration, so he's going to get to retrieve a force and get a nice 6 back that he can draw for Destiny on a future turn. But this will be the key right here, because once he takes this ship out, then the shuttle won't occupy a battleground system, and he'll have to pay to drain. So he'd be able to possibly afford to pay to drain in each spot. Man, 1 pilot and 3 passengers. Kylo's not even piloting, because Kylo's not a pilot. What a bum. There's the spin. So he gets the spin for the 6, and then he'll draw 2 Destiny behind it. And I think that's going to be a victory for Stubbly here in just a second. Yeah, one Dorsch wasn't enough. We went and got a second one. And that'll go ahead and do it and clear off the rest of Munchanka's cards. So congrats to Stubbly for picking up the win there. And we'll pop back to the lobby where it looks like there's just a couple things going on. So we'll move on over to our scheduled reviews, and then we'll keep an eye on the lobby. Maybe we can get some reviews in for some live games as they're going on in a little bit. The first game I want to look at is between our chat commentator, Rsersen, as he was taking on Xblack, Reed Smith. This link was posted the other day, and I didn't get a chance to look at it, but I was excited to see the game being played. I heard obviously there was some controversy because Xblack, yeah, well, we won't get into that just yet. So we've got Imperial Entanglements against Quiet Mining Colony. Not two decks we often get to see much in our streams. Usually there's a lot more mains type stuff going on, so it's good to find some deck diversity. This also happens to feature some of the new cards, including the Set 10 Death Star Reactor Terminal. Of course, created by DDM because it does strange things. Deploy on table. X equals number of devices on table. Once during your turn, peek at top X cards of your force pile and take one into hand. So if you get 2 or 3 devices on table during your turn, you can look at the top 2 or 3 cards of your force pile, pick one, take it into hand. Or the other thing you can do is deploy from lost pile a device, except a restraining bolt or a tractor beam. I've seen a lot of people using this to get the deflector shield generators. Certainly comes in handy, especially in Entanglements, which starts the Devastator on the table. You slap the deflector shield generators on it, make it immune to attrition in less than 5, and some other stuff that it also does. I think it makes power +2 and a few other things. You can't get restraining bolt, but there are a handful of other devices that certainly could come in handy, or tractor beams, which I'm sure Joe Phillips and Aaron Kingery are very disappointed by. Oh, I'm sorry, Munchanky. You didn't realize there was a shield for that? Yeah, there's a pretty big shield because Watch Your Step is one of those decks um, that was incredibly overpowered and was just dominating the tournament environment in 2001 and 2002. Well, mostly in late 2000 and 2001, and so therefore it needed a shield in Reflections 3. All right. And Xblack playing QMC, starting Keeping Empire Out Forever, Belden Zai, and Walkling. It's a pretty traditional start there. I don't know if Ancient Watering Hole is still bugged or not. I certainly wouldn't want to risk playing it in a competitive game until it is resolved. For those of you watching who do not know about the GEMP bug thread, there is a section on the forums where you can read and review all of the different current GEMP bugs. As they get resolved, they get moved out of that thread. Case in point, if you're trying to pod race and you're trying to use R2 and red 5s, like the deck that Dorsch happened to copy that we reviewed last week, Dorsch took out the pod racing and put in actual like real cards. But if you were playing the original pod racing version or just your own version of pod racing, when you stack R2 and red 5 on Anakin's pod racer, it defaults to the 0, so it doesn't actually count as whatever number you picked. And that is a bug that can certainly screw up your pod racing, and I would not recommend playing pod racing in any type of OCS game right now because of that bug. Also, the new Jedi Business Malastare. Some people want to like to combo those things up together. Combat being a good fit for that because it kind of wants to do those types of things with those types of guys. But Malastare is also bugged because it doesn't track the winner and loser of the pod race. So, fun tip. Make sure you check out the GEMP bug threads every once in a while and see what's going on there. Otherwise, you could get caught off guard and not realize something that is not quite working as intended, and end up losing an important game as a result of that. Did you miss much, Gornal? Only the first 25 minutes of the show, so which is really just me catching everybody up on current events in the world of Star Wars. If you just wanted to see the game reviews, well, then you're just in time. And hopefully you remember to subscribe so you can start getting your Twitch incentives. All right, so Rsersen has gone ahead. He's going to pull his admirals. He got Mahdi. He got Piet. Piet goes to the docking bay. Piet gets an admiral's order. Because you occupy a system, you can now deploy the admiral's order. There's the deflector shield generator, so we'll read that real quick. Capital Starship, power and armor +2. Well, that's pretty helpful. Armor +2 might prevent something from shooting you. Not a heavy turbo laser battery because they draw 2 destiny and have gunners and stuff, but it does certainly make it a little harder. And they can't use combined attack or power pivot, also helpful. And starfighters here may not attach, so it also solves your potential landing claw issues, which could be pretty helpful because it's also not just on this ship. It just says starfighters here may not attach. So if you have Devastator and Executor there, and like, well, I'll just attach to the other one without the shield. It's like, nope, you can't do it to either ship. So certain decks like Prophet and things like that just run one ship and a landing claw, or WAP that just ran like Queen's ship and a landing claw, well, Deflector Shield Generator stops that, and the new device card pulls that. Makes the ship immune to less than 5. Admiral Piet pulls an Admiral's Order. What's a good Admiral's Order to get? We're in attack position now. What does this do? This is probably one of the best Admiral's Orders in the game, is really what it does. Pilots deploy -1, 2 if an Admiral. So all these Admirals you have now deploy -2 aboard capital ships. Capital ship with a pilot is immune to attrition less than 4, or adds 2 to immunity if the ship already has the immunity. Deflector shield makes it immune to less than 5. This now adds 2 to that, makes it immune to less than 7. During each of your control phases, opponent loses 1 force for each battleground site your general or commander controls related to a system you occupy. So, Imperials, obviously you've got General Veers and General Navarre, and then you've got a handful of commander guys, including Admiral Mahdi, Senior Navy Commander. He's an admiral, he's also a commander. Weird that his keyword works like that, but it does, so take advantage of that when you can. There's a handful of other commanders. I believe Major Mienda is a commander, and then you've got, guys like Commander Praji, Commander Dasan, guys who actually have the title commander. There's a few people who have it by their lore as well. So, bam, slap Mahdi down there as a pilot for 1. Oh, and that's right. Mahdi, unless you're Senate on table, unique Star Destroyers are power +2 and immunity to attrition +1. So this thing is now immune to less than 8. That's a pretty stable, pretty sizable start. You give up the mob points effect, so you don't quite get the extra force activation from the docking bay or the access to the executor. But by doing so, you now get a power 15 immune to less than 8 Devastator, which seems pretty darn good. And it cost you nothing because you started with the ship on the table. So I can certainly see this being a very solid new way of starting Imperial Entanglements in the post-Set 10 environment. Interestingly enough, he did still run the flagship executor, though. I would think perhaps we would see Entanglements maybe switch up to a couple of different ships now. I know you play stuff like Conquest or whatnot, because if you're floating a ship anyway, you might as well float one that actually has some more useful game text. But from Xblack, we see him use his objective to get the 1-0 sight. He also deployed another sight from hand, and he's using Belden's Eye, which for those of you who don't know, because you haven't seen a QMC deck streamed by me in quite a while. Independent starships, defense value +2. That's what this icon is. This is independent ships, basically alien ships. Defense value +2 at Bespin locations. Makes them a little harder to shoot down. Hang on a second. Alright. Once per game, if QMC on table, simultaneously deploy a unique independent starfighter and matching pilot for -1 force east from your hand and or reserve deck. So if you have one of them in your hand, you can match it and deploy them both for -1 apiece. If you don't have either of them, you can go get both parts of the combo out of your reserve deck at -1 each. If you have them both in your hand, well, you could just deploy them from your hand together and save that for something else, but if there's only one combo in your deck, you can still use this and deploy them both from your hand using Belden's Eye for -1 force each. So for just 2 force, you get Rsersen and the Overseer. Immune to less than 6 at Bespin, decent power, adds 1 destiny to total power. And then you've got Hark for each opponent's non-battleground locations on table. Force generation is +1. So this right here is non-battleground location. Gives you 1 extra activation. So Lightside just got a nice little activation bump from that. He's very strong against decks like Hunt Down and Bring Them Before Me because they have multiple non-battleground locations. TTO is another one as well. They give you like 5 non-battleground locations. And then the other text on the Overseer, if a Dark Jedi or Sith was just deployed to a related site, may download a related location. So if like turn 1 they want to go, turn 1 they do something, and then like you do this on your turn 1, and like turn 2 they're like, oh, I'll deploy Vader, or I'll deploy Emperor or Sidious or somebody to your sites and start invading your locations. Rsersen the Overseer lets you go get an extra site out to help improve your activation, help them speed up your deck a little bit. And QMC usually runs like 5 sites, so having any additional ways to get them out faster certainly is a benefit. To flip this objective, you need to, because of keeping your eyes open, control 2 Cloud City sites and occupy the system. You flip the objective and it cannot flip back. And once per turn, search your force pile, take 1 card there into hand, and reshuffle. Once per turn, so it's your turn and your opponent's turn. Go through your force pile, take whatever card you want. It is the most useful benefit of playing QMC, and it is what has kind of made the deck last around as long as it has. Being able to go through your force pile on your turn and your opponent's turn, like you can leave 3 or 4 force with which to play interrupts and things like that. You don't have to draw for cards every turn. And it's just like, all right, well, now they're in the remove phase. I know they're not battling me, so let me go get a card. And I'll take a card. Okay, great. Or, hey, they just deployed a ship to Bespin, and that's not good. Let me go look at my force pile. Oh, look, it's a spiral. That's going to come in handy for me to deploy as a react when they battle me in a minute. Little things like that can really, it's a toolbox. That's exactly what it is. The carbon chamber testing with IG88 Virtual, who also does the thing, it's a toolbox deck. You have to know what cards to take in what situations, but you have so much access at your disposal. Being able to activate 12, 14 force on turn 2 or 3 and then go get any card you want. If you get familiar enough with the deck to know how to make the right decisions at the right times, depending on the right situations, it can be a very strong deck, and we've seen a number of people use these in high-level tournaments to make top 8s and World Championships runs and things like that. I believe this is what Tom Haid was playing in 2016 when he won his World Championship. He was using a QMC deck, and slightly different from this version, of course, but you spend a lot of time practicing with it, and you get to learn the tricks and what to pull when and things like that. And because you do have such access to it, you can play some goofy combos that normally in other decks you can't pull off. I mean, in a deck like this where you can pull any card you want, you can go get that maintenance Han Chewie Falcon and Life Debt and just be like, bam, Han Chewie Falcon, bam, Life Debt, there's 4 Battle Destiny, and just clear something pretty quick. Now, of course, the downside to that is, is that you got so many characters in your deck that your destinies are usually fairly low. But that's a combo you could pull off. I've seen people set up like a mid-game pod race because you just take the site, you take the pod racer, you take the thing, and you're just like, after they've played 3 or 4 shields, you're just like, bam, here's a pod race. Now, they don't have the shield available to get to it, so those are just abstract goofball ideas. There's plenty of other better ones that you can do, so give it some thought, and I'm sure you can come up with your own. And that's what Reed is going to do. He's going to go ahead and take a card. He gets the Home 1 War Room out. He deploys General Leia. General Leia suspends Admiral's orders. She's going to be pretty huge this game. While at a battleground, Admiral's orders are suspended. So that means that this is no longer making people deploy cheaper, or adding the 2 extra immunity as well. Also will not do the ping damage. Leia's going to do a lot of work this game, I would think, between the deploy cost, the reduced immunity, and the not getting the ping damage. And just like that, light side is now out, activating dark side. At the end of turn 1, they're getting 16 force. Pretty crazy. GEMPC will typically play, because they like to spread out on multiple sites, they will play several evasion type cards. Path of least resistance being the most popular, which lets you move guys from one interior mobile site to another. Occasionally you'll see things like dodge, blast the door kid, that kind of stuff as well as alternatives to fighting and rebel barrier. So plenty of ways to prevent the opponent from initiating battles or completing battles against them, and then that sets up the opportunity for them to counter battle or counter beat their opponent. Fighting on their terms is really what QMC is all about. But I did want to pause it because I haven't seen a comlink since 1995. So what does this card do? Use a force to play a character. If opponent just initiate a battle or force drain at the comlink's location or an adjacent site, you can react by deploying cards at normal use of the force to that battle or force drain location. Alright, so we assume Piet's going to docking bay transit over to this docking bay, and then he'll have guys at these 2 adjacent sites, and if light side comes to battle them, he can deploy cards as a react to back his people up. Okay, or if they go here and try and drain him, he can be like, no, you're not draining me, here's Vader. Extreme example, but it could happen. Now he can peek at the top 2 cards of his force pile because he's got 2 devices on table. And he does, and he takes a trooper assault, and it looks like he's going to throw some troopers down. Yeah, in this case, it was a particular easy setup, getting both of these deploy 0 guys, Radis and Calfal, for Reed there. Nice, very cheap setup, and then Harksef for 2. Darkside's going to counter with some other cheap cards of their own with these troopers that cost 1 and 2. Moves Piet over. Now he's got 3 locations covered. That also was Tatooine occupation, so he's got some occupation damage that can go as well. And he can leave a few force here, so he's got the ability to deploy stuff as a react. Or he can take his chances that this 1 barrier is going to hold up. Nope, he's going to go ahead and play a trooper assault and fish out 3 troopers, including the extra stormtrooper patrol, who also deploys as a react, and make sure the troopers additional power and whatnot. So now he's got several options here. He's got 3 locations, so he can eat, and this is a drain +1. So right now, at the end of turn 2, he's threatening quite a bit of damage. Light side's also threatening some damage and some retrieval. But I mean, dark side's looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 3 ping, 8 damage at the end of their second turn. Um, this trooper variants of Imperial Entanglements have been around for quite a while. They've keep making changes to the objective to try and curb this deck because of just how obnoxious it can be, and it still doesn't doesn't go away. People just find a new way to play it. And we're going to see a home 1 here from Reed. It is going to get barriered. And the barrier is successful. So he did not have a barrier canceller in that pile of cards, or just prioritized something different to take instead. And he's going to put Ray down a board. And I'm sure in this pile of 18 cards, we're going to find Akbar. Hey, there he is. Excuse me. Top-notch player like Reed, obviously going to do things in the right order. Deploying the most expensive thing first, then deploying Ray afterwards. Not that you couldn't do it anyway, because Ray has to be the pilot on the ship. But deploying Ray afterwards, so that way she could have a larger pool of cards to choose from when taking a card out of the used pile. It's still going to be 7 damage, 4 on the ground, plus 3 from occupation. And now Darkside is going to have to back it up, and they are getting some key cards here. He lost a Sight, he lost a Lobot, he lost a Rescue in the Clouds, he lost a BB-8, he lost a Pukumer, a Rebel Leadership, and a It's a Hit. Oof. Well, now this is interesting. Very solid play here, with home 1 being deployed over here and being occupied at Tatooine, and no force saved. The Harksef and Overseer kind of got hung out to dry a little bit here. Now he still gets a Destiny to power, and he's immune to less than 6, so it's not the end of the world, but he doesn't get a Battle Destiny unless he's got the Hujix combo, and that costs a force to play. So no force available there. Also no force left to play things like Alternatives to Fighting or Rebel Barrier. So we get Flagship Executor and Sergeant Elsic, who just happens to be a cheap pilot and trooper. So that would give him the ability to draw Destiny, because this ship only has a permanent pilot of ability 3. Can't really afford to squeeze out any other pilots, because what he's going to want to do here is battle, cause some power and overflow here, because he's up, like you said, 14 to 5. He'll draw Destiny. Maybe it'll be like a 3 or something like that to power. Oh, he got lucky and drew a 5. So he's up to 10. And then Darkside will draw Destiny here, and then you'll likely see the Executor move over to Tatooine to back up the Devastator. He's causing 8 overflow here. The ship's immune, so light side could choose to lose 8 cards and keep everything. And that is what they are going to choose. Nope, they're going to lose a couple cards in Harksef. Okay. So Harksef forfeited for 4, and he peeled 4 cards. Ahsoka Tano with Lightsaber, Path Least Resistance, Rebel Barrier, and the Hear Me Baby that he drew for Battle Destiny. And then I expect to see the Executor move over here to Tatooine to back this up and to protect this occupation. Smart play there. It's a key source of damage. Obviously, it's doing your most damage. You kind of want to keep that around as long as you can. So very successful turn for Rsersen there. And he does use Walkling to fish out the Cloud City Celebration. So now we're going to see celebration versus occupation. Occupation right now would be causing more damage than could be celebrated back, because what we've got, 3 locations doing damage versus 2 locations to retrieve at. But now here's the other side. As we saw, hung Hark Seth out to dry, didn't have any force available to spend to deploy, extra cards or use interrupts and things like that to back him up. In order for this flagship executor and Elsic to come down here and battle the Overseer and cause the overflow it did, it cost Darkside all of their force. So now they don't have any force left to use this comlink to deploy things as a react, unless they have something that deploys for free, and I don't think Darkside has any Imperials that deploy for 0 other than Ozzel, who I do not see in hand. So this is going to be a prime opportunity for Lightside to come punish Darkside for trying to punish them at Cloud City here. The Junlin Wastes text requires total ability of 6 or more to draw Battle Destiny, so Yoda goes there. Solo also would have worked there because his text says he draws 1 if unable to otherwise. So if unable to otherwise, it gets around text like 6 ability required. So either way, this would have worked out okay. But it looks like Lightside will have the ability here with 3 cards left to battle, and then possibly run home 1 over to Bespin. It'll also flip Darkside back in the process, which will turn off their occupation damage. That might have been an opportunity. Wow. I was going to say that might have been an opportunity to play a Trooper Assault there and possibly take some overflow. Playing the Trooper Assault makes the Trooper immune to attrition. Excuse me, dinner's repeating on me a little tonight. So he would have made the Trooper Power 3 and immune to attrition, so he's really just taken the overflow based on whatever Lightside would have drawn, and it would have kept him alive. Also would have helped prevent the flip back, so I would have played the Trooper Assault there, especially with having 2 of them in hand. I know you don't want that card to get grabbed, but at the same point in time, if he grabs it, he only has 2 force left. So if he grabs it, then he's not battling with Solo, or he's not moving home 1 away. And if he leaves home 1 there, well, that's what you want, because you want to crush that thing and get it off the table. And if he doesn't battle with Solo and clear Piet, then he can't flip you back. So I would have played the Trooper Assault there to keep the Trooper on the table, making him immune to attrition, and probably just peeled a couple of cards in overflow. And then you could have deployed and backed him up and beat up on Yoda the following turn. As it is, he takes 2 battle damage and he top decks 2 cards, which is kind of where he would have been anyway. He just got lucky that his opponent drew a 0, which doesn't often happen, especially in a deck that can go get any card it wants. Not sure why he's playing 2 copies of the War Room either, especially since he can go get any card he wants. But he's a better deck builder than I, so I'm assuming there's some type of probability in terms of getting stuff when you want it. So he'll go ahead and he'll battle with Solo. Solo draws a 5. Piet will cover, because Piet forfeits for 6. But now Lightside only occupies 1 battleground, or controls 1 battleground. Darkside controls 1. In order to flip back, you have to control more than they do. So right now it's a tie, so therefore the objective does not flip back, which is why the Trooper Assault being played here would have been so important. And I guess it tractor beams in the Overseer, even though there's nobody piloting it. So now Darkside will still get to do some things. Will still get their occupation damage because they are on the 7 side. So that was a big turn. Big effort by Reed there that just didn't quite pan out by drawing the 0. I'm sure he had some colorful words to say to himself about that one. And it looks like we're going to see some troopers go pile up on Yoda. And he's going to use Vader as well. So Vader can cancel Solo's game text, therefore Solo does not get a battle destiny. Alright, he's going to go get another comlink, because he's got 4 of them in his deck apparently. That might be a little overkill, but hey, it's his deck. If you're going to use a card nobody's seen before, you might as well play 4 copies of it, right? Happens to draw low, gets a 3. Solo forfeits for 7, which happens to cover exactly enough, so no overflow there. And now we'll get these 2 troopers and a trooper assault. Which is not cumulative, so don't play 2 of them. GEMP will give you the opportunity to play 2 of them because they're non-unique, but it doesn't do anything. And the other thing that Sergeant Barrack does here is when he's in battle with your other Biker Scout, draw Destiny and subtract that from opponent's attrition and total power. Key ruling about this card that I'll talk about as long as we had it up. Oh, since you can play it from Lost Pile, it also gives you the advantage. Thank you for pointing that out. When you pull up a card and it gives you the option to play it from multiple places, like Belden's Eye or like the reactor terminal there, it will show you, it'll combine both piles. So it's the card in his reserve deck plus the one that's in his lost pile already that is letting him pull it back out. It just looks like they're all in his reserve deck. So thank you for pointing that out to me, Ryan. But anywho, Sergeant Barrack draws Destiny, subtract that from opponent's attrition and total power. If your opponent does not draw Battle Destiny, they have no attrition. Therefore, you cannot use Barrack to subtract from that, even though you're also subtracting from their total power. It's kind of a counterintuitive ruling because you'd say, well, they've got a power total. Why can't I subtract from that? It's because of this little way it's worded as and. You have to have a way to subtract from both attrition and power. And if they don't draw Battle Destiny, then they don't have attrition. So, hypothetically speaking, if Yoda declined to draw Battle Destiny here, then Barrack wouldn't get to draw and subtract. So if you knew this was like a 1 on top, and you're like, well, I'm going to draw a 1, and then he's going to draw a 4 and subtract and put me down to 0, I'm better off not drawing at all because then he can't draw and subtract. And then I'll just be like, okay, great. I'll just take my lumps and forfeit Yoda and call it a day because Yoda covers 7. So you're at 10. He's at 13. So you lose Yoda in 3 cards. But say he draws a 4, so he gets lucky with the 4 there. But now that he has a total, now the dark side text will kick in and they can use Barrack, and now they can draw the Destiny to subtract from the calculation and see what they subtract from it, and they subtract a 4. So if he had drawn less than 4, he actually would end up lower than when he started before he drew Destiny at all. And in a deck that typically runs 20 to 22 characters, the odds are you're going to draw a character and draw low. Reed's drawn pretty well here so far with his couple of blind draws, so maybe his deck ratios are a little different than what we see normally in QMC, but usually it's like 20 to 22 characters. And I mean, there's lots of 2s and 3s. They're not all, Destiny 1 characters, but and then the QMC objective, the Imperial Entanglements objective lets him retrieve a trooper, so he gets eye roll back. Reed plays leadership to get Obi-Wan Kenobi, who is a general. Jedi Knight trained by Yoda, blah, blah, blah. General Kenobi became a hero of the Old Republic. So, General, you can pull him with leadership. And he will save a force. So now, light side will get their drains of 1, 2, and 3 total, and then they will get to retrieve 2 cards with Celebration, getting back some of those cards that they just lost. But they're still looking to be out damaged. So they're causing 3 damage and retrieving 2. Dark side here is causing, what do we say, 8? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, dark side's causing 8 damage a turn. So they're retrieving 2 of it. So basically, dark side's doing 6 a turn, light side's doing 3 a turn. Simple math will tell you that dark side's going to win at that pace. Light side can do some more retrieval, though, because here comes Rose. And there goes Jyn Erso to block the drain of 2. So now we just swung things the other direction. Now this just became a total force loss of 6. Oh, we'll get to that in a second. Total force loss of 6 a turn, and light side now just increased their retrieval to 3 a turn. So now light side's only taking 3 points damage in each round of turns, and light side's causing 3 points of damage in each round of turns. So therefore, they're now tied in terms of total output. And if you look at the fact that they both have about the same 18 cards left, that certainly is going to make this game far from being decided. The firepower shield is what just happened here. At the end of the turn, if you control 2 battlegrounds, a site and a system, which he does, an opponent deployed a card with ability and did not initiate a battle, you can retrieve a force. So he deployed Jyn, he deployed Rose, he didn't battle, so Darkseid can retrieve a force. This happens after you recycle because it's at end of turn. Same thing with like Visage of the Emperor damage. So you recirculate, then you retrieve the card. So the card you retrieve gets stuck in your used pile for when your next turn starts. So if you happen to retrieve something that you really wanted, you're stuck with it being not back in your reserve deck until the following turn. The light side has the same shield, weapons display. There says the same second part of the game text. It's the first part that's different. Dark side played this one because it says if you move from a location, if light side moves from a location, dark side occupied during dark side's turn. So basically, if they run away through things like dodge, hyper escape, or path of least resistance, all of which are fairly popular cards, maybe not hyper escape, but the other two are fairly popular cards in light side decks, especially in QMC. Dodge and path of least resistance are very common. It would cost them 2 force loss. Weapons display says at the time they exclude characters from battle, they lose 2 force. So doing things like Imperial Barrier or Stunning Leader will cause Darkseid to lose force. So Ryan will get to retrieve a card. He gets his kickback, which could come in handy later. And Reed will go get a card from his force pile every turn because QMC is really good like that. But Ryan will also have 2 different options to himself because the Imperial Entanglements objective lets you get a card from your reserve deck, peek at a card from your reserve deck based on the number of Tatooine locations you occupy. So he's got 4 right now, so he can peek at the top 4 cards of his reserve deck, take 1 into hand, and then reshuffle. So basically he'll know what these are. It could be worse. That would be a very good card to grab in this situation because he's using it to offset the Tatooine occupation damage, and since he can cycle through his deck and get any card out of his used pile he wants, I can definitely understand grabbing this card, and I would recommend that as well. He gets to peek at 4, so you've got 2 trooper tactical support isn't worth taking, because all you would do is use it to get the troopers, and you don't nearly need more troopers at this point. Imperial Command could come in handy if you were going to move in battle, which I don't think you need to do. So you're probably better off just taking a trooper, probably take Sergeant Wallen or something like that, and then just throw him over here at the 4th site to increase your drain and occupation damage. Hey, look, he took Wallen. It's like he heard me. Then he gets to peek at 2 cards, and his options were Tactical Support, which we already saw, we chose we don't need, and Tarkin's Bounty. Tarkin's Bounty, deploying an Imperial Leader, take any 1 card into hand from Force Pile and reshuffle. Also stops Leia, and if it's on Tarkin, it does some other cool stuff too, like letting you peek at the top card of either player's reserve deck. So you pick a leader. There you go, there's a leader. Now you get to go get any card you want. He takes the Imbalance combo, which will certainly help with the offsetting the retrieval from the Celebration. And he does decide to go after Leia. And he's going to deploy Wallen as a react to his own battle for free. And this is why this was a risky play, because now Wallen's going to get barriered. Yeah, I would have just set up, personally, I would have set up the 4th location, and I would have made him come to you, because you're doing more damage than him in the long run then. You know, you're adding an additional drain of 1 and an additional 1 of occupation. As we've been talking about, both sides were balanced, doing 3 damage apiece. Not flashing up gang symbols, it was, you know, it's just 3 and 3. Then you come down over here, now you get an extra drain of 1 and an extra 1 occupation damage. So now you're doing 5 damage a turn to his 3. It's going to start to get more expensive for him to be able to pay to do all that retrieval each turn as he starts running out of cards to do it with. You know, getting rid of Leia here does slow down his retrieval, because you would take Leia away, so then she's not retrieving for the Celebration. She's also not retrieving for Rose, but doing it this way to get around doing it cheaply, you ran into the risk of your opponent having something that cancels a react, whether it was a barrier or just something specific that cancels a react. So, and now you've got Sergeant Wallen, who can't move for the remainder of the turn. This would have been another situation here. So basically now you've got a guy who's going to battle against Leia. Leia's going to draw Destiny and kill him, and then Wallen's going to be stuck there by himself as well, unable to draw Destiny and get killed. This might have also been a good time to play the Trooper Assault to make the Stormtrooper Patrol immune to attrition. Make him power +2, so now he's power 5, and now he's not going to die and go anywhere. So now Wallen would rejoin the battle after it's over, and then you'd have 4 ability again and get to draw and be in a bit better position. I'm sure he's thinking here, you know, this guy, well, at least he forfeits for 4, so he's going to cover 7, so anything less than what Leia draws, that's 3 or less, he's okay. If he happens to draw 4 or 5, he peels a card or 2, and then he still has the Gick in his hand to back it up. But I would have recommended, again, playing the Trooper Assault to keep your guy on the table. And I think that gets you further in the long run. So you would have drawn a 3 there. You would have lost 1 card and kept the patrol, and then Wallen would then pair back up, and you'd actually have more power than Leia in the future. And of course, Reed was a smart enough player to know that the first guy didn't matter. He was a 2-ability Stormtrooper, wasn't doing anything by himself, so he saved the barrier for the second guy and waited till he was committed to the table and got him then. retrieve another trooper. But now poor Sergeant Wallen here is kind of stuck, hung out to dry. He's probably going to need the GIC, and most importantly, Leia's going to let him retrieve another force when he initiates battle. So now he's going to get an extra card back. So this is actually several force swing for the light side in this scenario. They get the 2 back with the celebration. Unfortunately, they retrieves that 0 Destiny War Room again. And the imbalance combo gets grabbed. So we got to cause 1 force loss with it. And then the card that he lost just gets retrieved again. And then Rose will retrieve a card. And then he can possibly deploy and with Leia in battle and retrieve something else. Oh, he's going to send Obi. He wisely shuttled down a guy to back up Sergeant Major Bursk here, but the guy he shuttled down only has 1 ability, so these guys over here still don't get a battle destiny. Definitely going to need a trooper assault there. See here, he plays the trooper assault to make this guy immune to attrition. But I think that would have been more beneficial to do that on the previous turn. Oh, and he only saved 1 destiny. Interesting. He can't battle in both spots. So, okay, so that's a good move there. He does get outpowered by 3. And he is going to lose 3 cards. And we'll possibly see the Stormtrooper garrison come down. But I guess the question will be is where's the garrison going to go? So he blocks a drain. He doesn't block an occupation damage. So now it's 2 plus 3 from occupation is 5. And Reed is starting to pull ahead here because of the extra retrieval that he's been able to pull off. But we're still kind of neck and neck here. They keep going back and forth just a little bit. Very close game. Very well played by both players so far. Grab another trooper. Pick up another trooper assault. Yep. And now he'll go ahead and battle Leia and trooper assault again. Except this time he's going to have power 8 to her 4 and get a battle destiny and should hopefully outpower her and get her off the table. And he's going to use that rescue in the clouds to shuffle his destinies around. So hopefully he draws something better than that 3 is what he's hoping. It's a good draw for Darkseid, beats her immunity, getting her off the table, which will then reinstate his Admiral's Order as well. And that won't matter because Darkseid's immune to attrition. And he'll draw a couple cards and retrieve a trooper. He finds a barrier, which could also come in handy. And now he's got a couple of force saved. So if Obi does battle these 2 lonely trooper guys here. The comlink can then be used to deploy somebody else as a react. He's got a guy now. This little 2-cost trooper guy. But I don't think Obi's going to initiate that battle. Probably okay to pitch the garrison here. It kind of just costs too much at this point to get down, plus you can retrieve it and get a 4 back in your deck. And Ryan smartly realizes that as well. He will retrieve Leia. I'm sure he'll throw Walkling out of play to retrieve with that as well. He gets Chewie back. Oh, Yoda's back again. This time to block Vader, and unfortunately that green card is not a Battle Destiny. Now what he needs is another character. Hey, he's got one, Yakshit. So what he did here was, because like I said, flip this card if opponent controls more Tatooine sites than you do. So he deployed Yoda, Jin Broker cover, which undercover spies do during the deploy phase. So therefore they both controlled 0 locations. Now he just throws Yakshit down at this adjacent site. That will give him 1 to 0. That will flip the objective back to the 0 side. And then he can move Yakshit to Obi, or if he barriers him, then Obi just moves to Yakshit. And the flip side of the front side of the objective says they lose no force to Tatooine occupation, or your force drained at the Tatooine system. So now he's not doing any occupation damage, and he's not draining for 1 at the system either. So that's a key, big move there, very key situation. He could have barriered Yakshit to keep him from moving back over, but without any extra troopers. I mean, he could track some stuff around and get cards out of his reserve deck and used pile, force pile with the cards he has. I mean, like I said, Obi would have just moved over. Then at least he gets a drain of 1 in. But yeah, starting to fall behind a little bit here now. We're both at about 12 to 12, but I feel like the light side just has a slightly better board position. Picks a trooper assault. He doesn't get to pick cards out of his reserve deck anymore either, because he's back on the 0 side too. So no occupation damage. So he just did a drain of 1 there, and this drain over here got canceled. It's only a drain of 1 because it's -1, and then this Cloud City site says if you control, you can use a force to cancel a force drain at a Cloud City site, so he canceled the one over here by spending a force to do that. So Darkside needs to initiate a couple battles here to try and get rid of some of these guys. And they do have the cards and the ability to do it. Trooper assaults on those guys. Draws a Destiny against Jyn Erso. Try and smack her around, cause a couple of force loss perhaps. She draws a 5, so she's going to cover because she forfeits for 5. And that's going to also let Reed get a peek at Ryan's hand. And if he wants to battle in all 3 locations, he cannot use Barrack to subtract. It might have been worth considering doing that, though, and just foregoing the battle here with Obi-Wan. Because if he draws Destiny and he subtracts, he might get a couple cards of overflow, and that might also slow down his ability to pay to retrieve and pay to cancel stuff. You know, he's got 2 cards left in hand. One of them presumably could be a Hujix, but then you make him play it there and possibly cause, you know, then he won't have that ability available to him later. So I think I would have used Barrack's ability here and not battled Obi-Wan this turn perhaps. I don't know, it's a tough call. Because you're looking at this and you're like, well, I've got 5 power here, plus Trooper Assault puts me into like 11. I can probably clear perhaps both of these guys, but I don't know. I think, truth be told, I think you're only getting one guy here either way. Um, so I think I would have wanted him to play the card here, and I just would have skipped this battle this turn. Ouch. That's costly. Draws the docking bay, which he never got out of his reserve deck, using either side of his objective. And he's got to peel the docking bay and lose Yoda. See, now it's almost not. You're almost thinking it's worth it. If the situation had been reversed, you wouldn't have had a Battle Destiny here to draw because he had done Barrack. You could just slide one of these guys over to this site or shuttle Mahdi down or whatever to this site. Then you'd control 3, and then you'd get to flip your objective again. So if he had done it that way, he drew a 3 with Kyrkanos. So Jin just barely covered. He would have subtracted 3 from her power. So he would have gotten a couple of cards off of Jin there as well. Yeah, 17 to 10 here. So you're just getting Obi. And then he moves the guy over and flips the objective back. So and no troopers left to retrieve. Save the force for the barrier and call it a day. And if you don't get to use it as a barrier, you might get to use it for firepower to retrieve a guy later. That was a very good turn for Darkside there. They got their board control back. They got their damage back. And now Lightside has to spend to do their retrieval. And this is just kind of where we are with these two types of decks. Usually it's a back and forth kind of game with this kind of stuff usually happening. And it kind of depends who's, either who's able to pull ahead earlier and just kind of lean on the other one. Can Entanglements do more damage before QMC gets set up with all their retrieval? Or can you, do something and kick them off one of their key locations or something like that? Hey, look, it's that Leia guy again. And there goes Anakin to the other site. So he drew out the barrier. He had 2 cards in his hand. He had 3 cards in his hand. 2 of them were characters. Leia drew out the barrier here, which left this guy, Anakin, free to go beat up on Sergeant Elsic, which will draw out the Gick. Smart play by Reed, drawing out the barrier from his opponent on the first guy, when what he really wanted to do was the battle on the other site. But luckily Ryan has the Gick to avoid the damage. Otherwise he wouldn't been too bad. He was down by 7, Elsic covers 5, so he would have peeled 2 cards. Instead he loses a Gick from hand, who basically covers 1. And then he leaves Yaxjit, which tells you that the card in his hand has been a Hujix for quite a while. or dodge. I guess dodge is a possibility, but Hujix is way more likely. But Darkside will get to do some serious damage this turn. They've got drains of 4 total, plus 3 more from occupation. That'll take Reed all the way down to 7 cards left remaining for light side here. And again, since they have to keep paying to do their retrieval to keep their, to keep hanging around and keep the game extended, making them lose cards certainly cuts into what they're able to do each turn. So any chance you can to get ping damage in, certainly want to make sure you take it. Certainly a couple of good options here. Looks like he'll be battling in at least one spot, if not 2. He's going to go kill Leia again. Trooper Assault up to 8. Draw Destiny of about another 4. Yep. And get Leia off the table one more time. Yeah, sometimes playing a Gick to save 2 cards, I mean, you're losing 1 instead of 2. Certainly does feel like you're not really getting it anywhere near its full potential out of it. But at the same time, when you're down to 10 or 12 cards, there probably aren't going to be many opportunities for you to use that again. So you might as well save the card while you can. What's up, buddy? You want to come be internet famous? Oh, come here. And there's the Hujix that he's had all along. See, look at you. You're on camera. Now you're internet famous. Oh. No, this is just why you need 2 grabbers, Gornall. There's always 2 cards you want to grab. Yeah, Grab and Trooper Assault certainly would have come in handy to stop it from being cycled around and used so much. But at the same point in time, if he's planning on retrieving 2 to 3 cards a turn with Celebration, and he constantly keeps getting hit with Imbalance, making him then lose them also, you can understand why he grabbed the Imbalance combo as well. But now it feels like Darkside finally has themselves in their final board position, and they can just start grinding the rest of this game out. It's going to take them another turn or 2 with the retrieval and the offset in order to get it done. But I feel confident that they would have won. Looks like Xblack timed out. He ran out of time here, which, when you're playing this type of slow, grind, methodical type deck, is certainly going to happen. I think that would happen, certainly would happen in a real life game in this matchup more often than not. And, if they had an extra 5 or 10 minutes, I think we still get to the same outcome, which is Darkside wins. So I don't think him timing out really changed a whole lot. I think it just saved them both from having to go through the motions for 10 or 15 more minutes. Because, he's down to 6 cards here. He pays to retrieve with Rose. He pays to retrieve with Celebration. Anakin's not really going to battle. Anakin's just going to move over or stay there. Darkside's going to go ahead and do, 2 or 3 damage. He's going to pay 1 to cancel this drain. Occupation's going to hit him, grind him right back down. He takes a few more cards off his piles, but Darkside still wins this game by 6 or 7 cards because they're going to retrieve a Trooper, which they just threw away to a drain. So it's really just 10 more minutes of going through the same motions there, which comes to the same conclusion, which is Darkside wins. So that's going to conclude our game review. I had a second game queued up, but that one actually took a lot longer than expected because of, so we're going to save that one for another day. We'll go back to the lobby real quick, see what's going on. Looks like we've got a couple of qualifier games going on right now. It looks like Xblack is playing Ralops against Mr. From Mars playing Watch Your Step. We also have Stubbly playing his Watch Your Step deck again, this time against Jared's Hoth CRV deck. So, and then of course people will also be trying to schedule their GEMPC matches as well. So be sure and look for those in the lobby. But we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show here tonight. Thank you guys all very much for watching this evening. Of course, if you are not following us, be sure and click the little heart. Make sure you follow us. And be sure to also renew your subscriptions so you can make sure you get all those Twitch subscription incentives, like those cool foils and poker chips that I showcased at the beginning of the show. If you missed it, just wait a few minutes and then you can check it out from the beginning. Hey, there you go. See, I just knew you missed something, Gornall. You missed resubscribing. So you get all your cool swag coming up in the next couple months here. But thank you guys very much for watching tonight. We'll see you back here next Monday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Have a good night.